So Delta Force just announced their brand new season, and I've had some comments over the past few months actually asking me where the videos are on the game. Because I have kind of just stopped playing it, stopped talking about it, stopped making videos about it. And I figured in this video, I'm going to give you guys a full rundown of what I think about Delta Force's new season, about the game in general, just how the content is actually coming out, and why I have essentially done a complete 180 when it comes to Delta Force compared to how I was during this game's release. And believe me when I tell you, the reason is incredibly simple, but there are a lot of things that I have to go over before we can get into that larger discussion. The first thing I want to establish immediately is that I am not interested in extraction shooters. I do not play the extraction shooter side of Delta Force. I am mainly a Battlefield YouTuber and a Battlefield player. That is what I love playing, and that is what I would want to play. So when Delta Force was first coming on the scene, or when I was first becoming aware of it, 2042, the people that know how Battlefield 2042 is right now understand nothing's happening with the game. We're basically all just waiting for Battlefield 6 to come out, and Delta Force for me was never on my radar, and I was not expecting to have a warfare mode or another Battlefield style mode come out to be available to play at all. So early on, hearing about Delta Force and then seeing the gameplay, I was cautiously optimistic, but then I played it for the first time. There were some really stupid issues with the game, such as there being a bunch of AI bots, but in general, the game was very solid, high quality, and the performance was amazing. I vividly remember getting over 400 frames per second when the game first came out. So the way I was looking at it is there's a brand new Battlefield competitor coming out on the market. It looks to have serious people behind it. They look to be trying to go for the throat of not only all the extraction shooters on the market, but also they're going to try to take the Battlefield player base as well. And I felt this was a big opportunity, right? Like, I was pretty interested, pretty excited, and I wanted the game to do well because the potential was so massive. All they had to do was consistently deliver in terms of, changes and just the rest of the things developers do with their game. Update things, nerf things, buff things, provide content. Now, when Delta Force finally released, of course, there was that huge controversy with it not being out on console, and then, of course, the thing where the anti-cheat didn't uninstall itself. But when the game first came out, I was still having a ton of fun with it. I was putting in like 12-hour streams for the first time in probably 3 years, and I was heavily preferring my experience on Delta Force at release playing the warfare mode as to my experience in Battlefield 2042, which of course was dead, nothing really going on, and the game was just completely long in the tooth. I essentially thought that we finally have a legitimate Battlefield competitor on the market, and it looks like this game is actually going to be supported and not get boring. But then I started playing it more and more, and then the developers' communication sort of dropped off a little bit. They weren't commenting about anything to do with the console release. People were getting very frustrated with that. People were getting annoyed that there were still AI bots in the player lobbies. And this can happen with any game, but the more I played Delta Force, the more everything became crystal clear about just how fucking annoying playing the warfare mode truly is, and just how things weren't as they seem. The more I played, I noticed the map design is actually really quite bad for warfare mode, and the new maps that they added were also really bad. The gameplay experience became extremely repetitive and spammy. Things like Luna wallhack, which has only been buffed in significant ways since release, became old extremely quickly, on top of the laser beam gunplay where you die to someone that is quite literally 100 meters away on a head glitch you can barely see, smoke spam, vehicle gameplay that is more akin to a Toys R Us battery-powered tank, and sadly it could never even hold a candle to the Battlefield vehicle gameplay. And then the worst thing of all is just how they decided to handle the content for Delta Force. This is where I'm going to get into talking about the quote-unquote new season of this game. If you take a look at the new season, which they have just announced on Twitter in a live stream, you'll see that at first glance it looks like we're going to get quite a lot of stuff. but take a little closer look. And before someone comments, "This game is free to play, Enders." Yes, I know. And free to play games require content to keep them interesting, just like every other game ever created. Especially when you're playing the warfare mode, which I primarily play. Once again, I do not play the extraction mode. I do not care for extraction shooters. But taking a look at the content, which we had to wait 4 months for, by the way, you only receive 1 new map for Warfare, 2 new weapons, 1 gadget, a faction overhaul, and a brand new operator. I'm just going to explain it like this. I already explained that the map design in this game is severely lackluster in my opinion, and that includes some of the brand new maps that they've added in previous seasons. So with this new season, we get another new map. Let's just say this map is amazing, for argumentative sake. The novelty of this map being new and interesting will wear off within, and I'm not exaggerating, 4 to maybe 6 hours of gameplay, and then it just becomes another map that you can play in the game. And the same thing can be said for the new weapons. The weapons in this game pretty much all feel the same because the gunplay doesn't really have any mechanics. It is all just the laser beam gunplay, and you have to build your weapons to have as little recoil as possible, and to make them reach out and do as much damage as possible over range. So, the gunplay doesn't have any character, so adding a new weapon doesn't necessarily really mean anything, because they all feel the same. And as for the brand new operator, I only look at that as more bullshit you have to deal with while playing the warfare mode. And trust me, there is already an unimaginable amount of bullshit you have to deal with in the warfare mode already. Let's just list off some fun things, okay? Dying to vehicles, getting wallhack spotted by Luna, getting bled by the other new operator with his frisbee he throws, so now there's bleed damage, getting shock arrowed by Luna, getting shield bashed by Seneva and grapple hooked, getting blown up by D-Wolf, getting blown up by Uluru's TV missile, which drops scatter grenades, and then, of course, who could forget getting attacked by Toxic's massive swarm of drones. And keep in mind, I'm really only scratching the surface here. I could probably play the game again and add about 15 more things. So my point with all of this is here, this game simply does not have enough content to maintain anyone's interest level. Because I know for damn sure the warfare experience is not enjoyable enough to keep really anyone playing. In fact, please comment down below if you're still playing this game daily. Almost every single person I know that played this game at launch has quit months ago. And just to emphasize how little content Delta Force truly has, me being a content creator, my community was really interested, because I'm a Battlefield YouTuber, in the Battlefield competitor warfare mode, right? That's obvious. I made a bunch of videos on it. People were really interested. They wanted to see it. There is so little content to cover in Delta Force that I can hardly even make videos about the game, and I play Battlefield 2042. But you know what? At least Battlefield has interesting developer comments, leaks, a new game coming around the corner, a bunch of different subjects to talk about, and meanwhile, Delta Force just gives us essentially absolutely nothing every single time a new season releases every 4 months. And you know what? It's my mistake. It really is, because I just kind of assumed that if you're gonna try to go after Battlefield, you're gonna release some pretty substantial content, but I just turned out to be more wrong than ever. And to make matters even worse, apparently there is an Intel bug that is crashing people's clients and games, and on top of all of that, the game has lost a staggering amount of performance since launch. I now have to play this game with DLSS on ultra performance mode to even get 300 FPS, whereas before I was getting almost damn near 400, 500 FPS without DLSS turned on. That is how bad the performance has gotten in Delta Force. It seems every single time they update the game, you lose about 20% FPS. That is not acceptable. So, in my opinion, it is very, very obvious that the main attraction to Delta Force is the extraction mode. That is why they're putting these operators in the game. They are very clearly designed to be used in operations rather than warfare. The balance really gives that away because they are constantly buffing Luna, but in warfare, Luna is a massive fucking problem. If I had to take a wild guess, because operations, the fights don't happen nearly as often with nearly as many people, Luna is more than likely not as big of a problem, and that can be said for every single other operator in the game as well. And it really is a shame, because if they just put some more effort into actually considering the warfare mode, perhaps delivering even just slightly more content, maybe the game would be interesting for more than about 8 to 10 hours at a time. But it is very, very clear to me that this is not the game that I thought it was at first. This is mainly an extraction shooter game with a side of Battlefield. It is not 50-50 like I initially expected it would be. They are not treating each mode equally. The replay value and all of the content, all of the interest is purely surrounding the operations mode. And yeah, you're probably going to say, well, Enders, just play the fucking operations mode. And to that I have to say, no! Fuck extraction shooters, okay? You guys can play what you want to play, and I'm going to play what I want to play. Extraction shooters and me do not coexist. I don't like anything about them. The whole gameplay loop does not interest me. And believe me, I wish it weren't the case, because operations players are probably eating good, right? With all the replay value, they're adding a bunch of different maps, and because it's an operations mode, there's a whole bunch of missions you can do and go in and play with your friends and all that sort of stuff. And this absolutely rings true, because if you take a look at any sort of content surrounding Delta Force, I'd say 90% of the time, you open the Twitch section, you type Delta Force in on YouTube, an operations video or an operations stream is gonna pop up. You will rarely see people play Warfare. And I'm sure if you're a casual player, your experience is completely different than mine, but we have different needs, right? That's just absolute baseline fact. So to wrap this video up, what happened with me and Delta Force is they essentially just don't release enough content to keep me interested in the game. It gets boring extremely quickly, and I find the Warfare gameplay loop to be more annoying than Battlefield 2042 is right now. I do not like the abilities in the game. I don't like getting wall hack spotted 24/7. I don't like bleed. The maps are fucking terrible. They're not good. Alright, I even made a video months ago dissecting just why the maps aren't good. And guess what? Absolutely nothing seems to have changed. And maybe I ruffle some feathers with this video. I genuinely couldn't care less. All this video was meant to do was provide maybe some information for people that were wondering why Delta Force is not on the channel a lot anymore, and that's pretty much it. So, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Maybe I will cover more Delta Force in the future. I don't know. The game is really going to have to make some big changes for me to get super interested in it again. And judging by what they've been doing so far, they are not going to randomly 180 and start making all the correct buffs and nerfs to the game. So it all just looks like a wash. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys understand a little better now. Maybe I ruffle some feathers. Again, whatever, man. You can play whatever you want. I'm going to see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And I also stream every single day at twitch.tv/enders. First link in the description.
Oh no, we're not done yet.